Okay, so Antrim are against Wexford this weekend. It's at Wexford Park. Do you feel that Wexford carry forward a bit of kind of ill will? I suppose it's a bit of an exaggeration, but kind of this feeling that we're going to show Antrim after, the draw that they had a couple of years ago up in Corrigan Park in the league, that they're like, we're never going to be caught by them again.
Oh, I think that's a bit disingenuous, to be honest with you, to an Antrim team that got a draw against Dublin last weekend. I don't think they'd be thinking anything about it.
Are you suggesting I'm disingenuous?
Yeah, most of the time. The majority of the time. Hugh Paddy just says there as well, speaking of Tony Brown, is he on the tip backroom team? What's his role? I think he's
he is performance coach.
Performance coach, yeah. I just...
Whatever that means.
I kind of laugh at that role, but anytime I'm ever chatting to John Milan, he could not sing higher praise of Tony Brown. Milan asked, when social media was starting, he asked Tony Brown, he's like, social media, think I should be on it or whatever, and Brown just said, no, it's not for you, John, and he's never gone on social media since. But Tony's a bit of a confidant for a lot of guys, even those ex-Waterford guys. I think he was really well received at Waterford last year. I think he's been pretty well received at Tip as well. But from an Antrim point of view, like, if they can follow up last weekend, it would blow Leinster open. And they're coming down, they're making like a ridiculous trip down the East Coast. It's a monster of a trip. It's an evening game. I think they're coming down on the Saturday, and they're actually staying over the Saturday night and leaving the day after the game. But they were brilliant last weekend. At least they weren't left with nothing. I'll put it to you that way. At least they have something to show. And I just said it on the Monday show as well. I was watching the Wexford game the other day, and there was a conversation between Chin and Dar Egan with about 15 minutes to go, and the game was going away from them. And it just looked to me, it was just like, even between the two of them, we probably need to box clever here. We don't need to throw you in here with the best will in the world. It's going to be near impossible to turn this game around. We're playing Antrim next weekend. We know Antrim have to have a point on the board already, and that was a beneficial position for Wexford to be in, to know that. And I'd expect Chin to be out this weekend. Maybe, I don't know what the crack is with Rec. I think he picked up something in the warm up. Now Chin's is an AC joint, which is a nasty enough injury, and he's a big man, and he's going to shift punishment as well. So I'm not sure.
That's the way he plays. Like.
Yeah.
He's an excellent player. That's the way he plays. So he's going to be in contact. Do you think, like, Dar Egan will be desperate for a win, but do you think he needs to just say, I've got the team that should be able to win this game at home in front of a crowd in Wexford Park, and I need to do it without Lee Chin and give him every opportunity to play in the following games? Like, that he has to make a bit of a calculated gamble here. Like, should Wexford win this game without Lee Chin? No, they may not, but should they?
Oh,
they should.
They're just about.
They've still got Conor McDonald. They've got just about. So if he's playing, okay. So if Wexford have Lee Chin playing and he's fully fit, what would you predict would be the handicap for this game?
It's funny you asked that, because I asked Nisha on Monday, what's Lee Chin worth to your team? How many points is he worth to your team? And I think he's worth. Take the freeze out. I think he's worth 4 or 5 points to Wexford. Between scoring, setting up. So, like, if Chin is playing the handicap, I don't know what the handicap is at the moment, but the handicap is probably 5 or 6, I'd say. If he's not playing 2 to 3, I would think. Now they're obviously playing. They've been playing Division 1 hurling for a long time. Wexford have, and they've gotten some great results. Beat Kilkenny in the championship last year. But, like, Hannon's only just back. I know he has a game under his belt. Liam Ryan is only just back. Dermot O'Keefe kind of laboured off in the game. We don't know if Damien Reck is fit. Don't think Shane Reck is fit. Paddy Foley's not around. I reckon not long back.
I reckon they won't start him, and they'll just see how the game's going. And so the handicap at the moment is 5 points. But I'm sure the bookies are taking into account whether Lee Chin can start or not, and maybe they're thinking that he probably won't start, but they'll bring him on if they need him. I think that we don't know the severity of the injury. We haven't seen the scans or anything like that. But if it's any way a risk of him making that even worse, they have big fish to fry. I know they could end up putting themselves in a terrible position if Antrim, who are playing well, if Antrim come and sort of shock them down at Wexford Park. But I just don't think you can. I think you have to trust your panel to some degree. They still have good forwards. I've already mentioned Conor MacDonald. Charlie McGuckin's obviously an excellent player. Liam McGovern, Cathal Dunbar, Rory O'Connor. I think they do have to trust these players.
They're playing Dublin next week as well. And
that'll be a physical game.
Yeah, but that would be viewed as many as the de facto game to decide who's third and fourth, and that's not been disingenuous to Antrim. That's just what everybody nearly thought beforehand.
Sure, everyone's disingenuous as far as you're concerned,
including myself.
Yeah. Emil89 says George O'Connor in '96 was pretty old. He'd won his first All-Star in 1981. He actually retired from club and county hurling in the same year. Shows how long he was on the go by 1996.
Someone mentioned Joe Dooley as well. Joe made his debut in '84 for Offaly. 2000.
Oh, we've lost Michael Verney there. Right,
no, back. I'm back, baby. He would have been late 30s, I'd say, playing in 2000.
So Darren Gleeson made some interesting comments after the game. He says that their hurlers are finally able to express themselves, and he goes, I thought they showed what it meant to them, the emotive side of the game. Sometimes they pull on the Antrim jersey and they can't really show that emotion. They're not expected to show that it means something to them. But for this group of Antrim, it means a lot to them. So do you reckon that's the whole club division that he's talking about there, that it's almost like you can't show what it means to you because you can't be somehow suggesting that the county means as much as the club?
Well, yeah, I thought, Jesus, I hadn't thought about it.
That'd be my guess.
Yeah, just explain that to me again, so that people would think like the county game means that much that you would not be like maybe expected to show how much the county means to you.
Well, I'm just looking at those quotes and I'm thinking basically players haven't always been able to show what it means to them to play for the county and show that sort of level of kind of passion or whatever it might be. And I'm wondering, like, over the years, club division has affected Antrim. It has, like, because at times you've lads from some counties not pulling with our clubs, pulling with other lads from other clubs, some lads not talking out for the county and so on and so forth. But the last few years, it's felt like whoever the county manager has wanted has been involved. Yeah. So maybe they've now got to a stage that when they're on the pitch and if they want to give the old fist bump or whatever, which shows
give it the big one,
give it the big one, that it's almost like he's suggesting that they're now comfortable to do that everyone's comfortable in their skin with not only being a club hurler representing their parish, but they're now comfortable with saying, do you know what, I'm an Antrim man as well. Do you see where I'm coming from?
No, I see what you mean, because Offaly would have had club divisions, and one of the main reasons they were able to win in '94 and '98 was because they were able to get rid of club divisions that were there, and they were able to be, on a united front as a county team. There's a couple of other counties. Just let me think. There's definitely would be divisions. There would historically be divisions within Wicklow as well, big time. And I'm sure there's more other counties that historically
Galway,
have that.
I remember previously it was said that Galway had so many problems and that was holding them back. And maybe, I don't know, would you credit it to Micheál Donoghue or Anthony Cunningham? Or I'm not sure entirely who you would credit with them turning that around, but definitely that was seen as a key to them finally going on to challenge and ultimately win the All-Ireland in recent years.
Jay, just on Flash's question, because just touch on this briefly. So Flash says, what's gone wrong with Wexford? Had so much hope for them start of last year. Now they're a complete shell of what they promised. Now, I hope this doesn't happen, but I think they are on a very, very slippery slope going forward, I have to say, as regards where their senior team will be in 3 to 4 years. When O'Hanlon goes, when Ryan goes, when McDonald goes, when Chin goes. I think they're on a very, very slippery slope, and they're in serious danger of not being competitive at Leinster and All-Ireland level, and potentially not at Division 1 level if they're not careful.
I'd be interested to get the thoughts of some of our viewers if they agree with that.
Now, Shane, I'll tell you another thing. A lot of people in Waterford would say the exact same thing. They would say
about them.
And if you look at their underage performances, like I think they're gone out of the minor and under 20 in rapid time this year. A lot of people would say when Barron goes, when Ozzy goes, when De Borca goes, guys of that age, Stephen Bennett even is probably a little bit younger than those, that what's coming behind is not up to standard.
Your Pádraig Fitzgeralds, your Patrick Fitzgeralds, I mean, they're not bad players. The Dailies. I wonder will Cork Daly feature this weekend? I was sort of surprised that he didn't get a bit more of a role last week. A couple of the players that I do like that are coming through with Wexford would be the likes of Richie Lawler, Mikey Dwyer is probably pretty young even at this stage. I expect Oisin Pepper to have a big role in the coming years. Charlie McGuckin, I think, is very good. So I wouldn't be quite that down on them. There was something else I meant to mention, but of course
Now,
I
I
can't
would
think
say
of
now
it now.
all those guys as well were part of that under, definitely Charlie was definitely playing today. Tip hit them for 8 goals in an under 20 final, under 20 semi-final in Nolan Park, which would tell you the difference in standard between Tip and Wexford at that level, and that's just a case in point there. But I do think Wexford and Waterford are both on fairly slippery slopes.